Jibu 2786. Whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you all are doing blessed and feeling safe on this 4th of July weekend. Happy 4th of July, or as they say, you lie, as the woke crowd is saying. What I'm going to be talking about is, all jokes aside, this is going to be very serious. You guys have probably seen this picture of this young lady. Her name is Vanessa Guillen, if I pronounced that correctly. Vanessa Guillen, excuse me. So I must say she's a very attractive young woman. She was, I believe, 20 years old. She was found dead about 30 miles outside of Fort Hood. She was an Army specialist, and she apparently was killed. We don't know exactly where or when, but this happened on an Army base at Fort Hood, and there are 2 suspects that are involved in this case. Of course, one of the suspects allegedly committed suicide. I put allegedly because, they always tell you that story, but we don't know the whole details and ins and outs of what really happened. But I gotta go with the news says is that apparently some officials from Killeen, Texas, officers were approaching the suspect, and I'm gonna put his image up in a second, and arrested with regards to this investigation. Apparently they found her body a couple of days ago. People have been talking about it. It's been all on Twitter, so you guys that have probably found it. They say on June 30th, contractors working on a fence near the Leon River discovered what happened to be human remains. When authorities searched the area, they found scattered human remains that appeared to be placed into a concrete-like substance and buried. Now, her sister, and her name escapes me now, but I've seen her sister on Twitter, obviously in emotional distress, along with the family attorney, talking about how Vanessa, specialist Guillen, had been complaining about sexual harassment and sexual assault. And of course, there is no record from what I'm reading here in this news report. This was from KTRK, that the authorities, the Army Department officials have stated that there was ever a formal complaint of sexual harassment that was filed. But they're saying that she was murdered, and it's speculating that it was over sexual harassment, but the Army officials claims that disputes that story. This came from ABC 13. They said that quote, there is no credible information that Specialist Robinson, this is the guy who this is the guy that is accused of helping dispose of her body. We don't know if he actually murdered her, because he is not here anymore to testify. But they state, and I'm putting their image up here. Now, they state that, here I'm reading further, this is from ABC 13. This is actual video that you're going to be hearing, some audio footage that I'm going to be playing in regards to her disappearance. I guess they interviewed the Army officials while all of this was going on. I'm going to play that for y'all right now. As soon as this thing can turn on, I'm having a little issues, guys. Excuse me. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay, well, I'm trying to play it, but if it comes on, like I said, the area right here where my Wi-Fi is pretty messed up. The internet is off and on while I'm up here doing in my studio. But Fort Hood officials, his name is Damon Phelps. He's a special agent with the Army's Criminal Investigation Command. He stated on Wednesday that there is no credible information that Specialist Robinson sexually harassed Specialist Guillen. This is Specialist Robinson here. Now, supposedly, Robinson was being, as Chilean officers were approaching him, he pulls out a gun and shoots himself and commits suicide. The woman that you see right here, her name is Cecilia Gallery, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on one second. Shit, this damn thing. Well, I'm reading the news. What's happening? I'm reading the news and I'm looking at it. I'm going back and forth between it, and this shit just doesn't act right sometimes. So, yeah, the woman here is Cicely Aguilar, age 22. She's charged with one count of conspiracy to tamper with evidence, and she is an estranged wife of a former soldier who was stationed at Fort Hood. And apparently, according to the criminal complaint, what they're alleging, Robinson allegedly admitted to Aguilar that he had transferred a woman's body off the base to a remote site in Balad County. According to the criminal complaint, on June 21st, what appeared to be burned remains of a plastic tote or tough box were found in an area where Robinson's phone pinged. No remains were found that day. At 1 p.m. on June 30th, contractors working on a fence near Leon River discovered what appeared to be human remains. This is what I read to you earlier. Aguilar admitted that Robinson told her he killed a female soldier by striking her in the head with a hammer multiple times at his arms room while on post on April 22nd, the same day Gillian went missing. Now, I don't know how exactly. I'm still trying to figure out what was his relationship to her, to Miss Aguilar, because she's the estranged wife of a soldier on base. I don't know if they were close friends, if they had a sexual relationship with each other. God only knows. But apparently, she supposedly helped him dispose of the body, which is why she's being charged with obstruction of justice. And coincidentally or not, sexual assault claims and cases happen all the time on military bases, in the Army in particular. I just saw a documentary called Sex in the Army that was in 2009. And one of the former colonels, Ann Light, talked about how 1 out of 3 females are sexually assaulted or harassed in some way during the Army. And I'm going to play a little clip of it, perhaps later in the show, because of the topic that we're going to be discussing today. The criminal complaint says that Robinson placed Gillian's body in a box and moved the box to a location near the Leon River. Aguilar told officials that sometime between the evening of April 22nd and the early morning of April 23rd, Robinson picked her up at the gas station where she worked and took her to an area where the Leon River and a bridge. Near the Leon River and a bridge. A box with wheels and handles was already at the site. Aguilar said Robinson walked her over to the woods, opened the box, and she saw a dead woman inside. Aguilar later told investigators she recognized the deceased, whom she helped Robinson mutilate and disposed of, as Gillian. The complaint said Aguilar and Robinson then used a hatchet or axe and a machete type knife to dismember the body. They allegedly tried to burn the body and place the remains in 3 separate holes and cover them up. Remains found in the shallow graves near the river in Bell County have yet to be formally identified by authorities, although according to the breaking news that I'm seeing in the headline that her body had been identified. Aguilar is facing 20 years in prison with a maximum fine of $250,000. I'm still trying to figure out, number one, because apparently authorities got a tip on that. Well, who was the one that, on where the location was, who was the one that gave the tip? See, you always got to question where the source comes from, because investigators claim to get tips all the time. You know, I got a tip that, from an anonymous source that this person was waving a gun on the street. That's what happened to Alton Sterling. You know, someone had called, Alton Sterling was the man that was shot in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and they were able to find out eventually that this person, if I'm not mistaken, was a former ex-girlfriend or some kind that called the police on him out of revenge, if I'm not mistaken, and that's how the cops ended up doing it. There was one story I heard, it was another man that was on the street that reported it. Then I think that person, no, I distinctly remember it was a female that said that. But nevertheless, Alton Sterling is dead as a result of it. And I think that person probably lived with that for the rest, I mean, not probably, they lived with that moment for the rest of their life. If I'm wrong about that information, correct me, but I distinctly remember them saying it was a female of some kind. I think that either he had a child with or who may have been an ex-girlfriend, something along those lines. I remember that being told. And of course, this guy, Robinson, is no longer here, so we don't know exactly what happened, whether he was harassing Julian or not. We don't know what happened in that story just yet, and we're just waiting for everything to come out. But these things are more common than not in the military, from what I've heard. And if you listen to Nicole's View yesterday, shout out to her, where she had on Harvey and Tori and Rain. Harvey served in the military, and he talked about how the Army base basically was a big party. Some people hang out, we have your, it's basically like he said, it's just being a civilian with a uniform, because, you know where people act wild at, with, especially who hangs out with who. He said they got skinheads on one side, neo-Nazis on another, they got the black infantry that hangs out, and so on. It's a city within a city when you're in a military base, which is true, because I've been on naval bases before, and of course, it's basically a different world. It's a city outside city limits, inside of it. And I'm still trying to, have different areas that are posted, and I'm still trying to, people doing different things. I'm still trying to figure out how he was able to do all of this, I'm sure, in a room. I'm pretty sure that they have, I don't know if they got cameras set up, but I would assume, being it's the military and they like to keep an eye out on things, that cameras would be set up in that room. I'm pretty sure they have stuff like that they can identify. Now, you see how quickly people have called for justice in this case for Vanessa Guillen, and rightfully so, regardless of what she was accused of, regardless of what I don't mean what she was accused of, I apologize. What I meant to say was, regardless of what the circumstances, that's what I meant to say. Whatever the circumstances were, whether she was having a relationship with this man, or if she found out she denied having a relationship with him and turned him down and he killed her, which I don't know why he would do that exactly. I don't know if she saw something that they didn't want her to see. He didn't want her to see. I don't also know if this man killed her. He's dead. They say he committed suicide, so when you commit suicide, that's usually a sign that you were involved somehow, guilty conscience. But again, I didn't see the suicide take place, so I'll just say alleged. But I'm bringing all of this up to get to our conclusion, and I'm looking at this young woman. This is Private LaVena Johnson. Now, shout out to Brother Ron Hurd, because he actually did a story about her before. Some of you probably even heard her story. She was a 24-year-old E3 in the United States Army, private first class. She had 2 medals, Army Good Conduct and Army Commendation Medal. And she was from Florissant, Missouri, standing at 5'1", and that's very important. She was deployed to Iraq and stationed in Balad, and had been there for over 8 weeks before her death on July 19, 2005, nearly 8 days before her 20th birthday. Well, LaVena Johnson was killed on July 19, 2005, and her death was ruled a suicide by the Department of Defense. However, LaVena Johnson had parents. LaVena Johnson's mother, Linda Johnson, and her father, who's a doctor. He actually served in the military, and he was also worked with the military as a civilian psychologist, if I'm not mistaken. They highly disputed the facts of this case. Dr. John Johnson and Linda Johnson, their family, their attorneys, do not believe that Miss Johnson committed, Private Johnson, First Class Johnson committed suicide. And when you look at the facts and evidence in the case, you get to see why they don't believe it. First and foremost, I looked at and saw the documentary and parts of the criminal police, not the police report, but the reports that have come out subsequently from this death. Number one, supposedly she used as a murder weapon a rifle. Okay? She used a standard issued M1 M16 rifle as the weapon to commit suicide. She chose to commit suicide. Yet, from the evidence that they looked at, from what her father looked at, the bullet wound actually looked like it came from a 9mm. It was that small, which would be a smaller caliber than what an M16 rifle would. The other thing too, even holding an M16 rifle, like they issue in the military, Ms. Johnson is 5'1". How would she commit suicide at 5'1" and maneuver a very large weapon of that caliber? The other aspect too is when you look at the crime scene photographs, and I'll have to do that in another video. They're pretty graphic. I didn't want to do that today, but I'm going to do a part 2 to this. When you look at the crime scene photographs, and I've seen where the rifle was compared to her body, the rifle is several feet away. So if she committed suicide and dropped dead right there, why is the rifle several feet away from her body on her left-hand side? By the way, Miss Johnson was right-handed, which is another thing that doesn't make sense. The other thing too is the issue of her genitals. There was an examination done, and apparently they found lye within her genitalia, and that would seem to indicate that she was sexually assaulted. And someone, preferably I would think someone that was in her chain of command, someone higher up, I don't know, or someone that was working there, probably didn't want that information being leaked out, didn't like the fact that she was going to report it to the police, to the military police, get that person kicked out of the army and put in jail, and they decided it would be best to get rid of her. Now I'm just speculating, but I'm speculating based off the information that I know. I'm going to read further. The family requested, as the Army initially refused, information through more evidence and information through the Freedom of Information Act, after Representative William Lacey Clay Jr. raised questions about it at the congressional hearings over Pat Tillman. Remember with Pat Tillman, the former football player from the Arizona Cardinals that went into the United States Army and was killed by friendly fire in Iraq. And they tried, in Iraq. And they tried to use his death as a ploy. This was in 2004, I remember it exactly, to get more people or get behind a war effort. And it made it seem like it was done by, the insurgents, but in reality, he was killed in Afghanistan and Iraq, but in reality, he was murdered or killed, I should say, due to friendly fire. And this was a month later after he died. He joined the Army Rangers. Now, this happened in 2005. So at this time, you know, the evidence right now obviously has been destroyed, or either destroyed, or it is no longer, you know, it's been over 15 years. It's either been destroyed, or it's severely tampered or disintegrated due to time, due to the elements and so forth, anything dealing with her. Another aspect I wanted to point out, and this was reported by Brother Ron Hurd, he brought this to my attention as I was reading his post on Facebook, that the gloves that were issued to Ms. Johnson that were used in her burial were glued to her hands. And the reason they were glued to her hands was because they did not want to show the fact that her body, parts of her body, had been burned. So what I think is someone was trying to cover up the evidence. And they're trying to say that she set the fire in a camp on base in a tent that was for a service contractor. The service contractor being, if I'm not mistaken, Halliburton. This was called Camp Number 2. So I'm going to play just a clip. This is a documentary you need to check out. It's called, hold on a second here. It's called Sex in the Army. So I'm going to play at least the first part of it, if I could, so you guys can check out and listen to. But this is Dr. John Johnson.
Military honours more than 170,000 war dead from campaigns past and present. But for the family of one soldier buried here, the Defence Force's code of honour and respect means nothing.
You blessed us when you gave her to us. We just never imagined we wouldn't have her long enough.
Today, Dr. John Johnson has come back to reaffirm his promise to his 19-year-old daughter that he will continue the fight to find out how she died.
God, I'm asking you to just continue to bless us, to encourage us, to get justice for her.
Dr. Johnson refuses to believe the Army's finding that his daughter, Private LaVena Lynn Johnson, killed herself just 5 weeks into her tour of Iraq by firing her M16 rifle into her mouth.
Now let me stop right there. Yeah, so she had just been deployed for nearly a month. And she was suicidal soon after that. What sense does that make? I've never heard of someone, especially when you were in the military. Now, I've never tried for it or so forth. I don't know the details, but I do know from looking at applications, because I was considered once, they do ask questions about everything from your background, you know, from a physical aspect. They want to know if you've been diagnosed with any diseases, just like you would do when you go before a doctor. They're going to ask you all of those questions about your medical history and so forth. And they also do it for mental reasons as well. So mental health wise, because they need to know who they're putting in their platoons. They need to know who's serving with them and whether they're mentally fit for combat. So the fact that she was even a week before her birthday, 20th birthday, doesn't even make sense, doesn't even make any more sense, rather, that she would have taken her life.
You get a 19-year-old female that gets off work. She puts an infrared reflecting belt around her waist. She stops at the PX and she buys soda, lip balm, and M&Ms. Then you're gonna say she walks across the post and sits down in a dark, trashy contractor's tent and sat down and shot herself with an M16 rifle. And that doesn't even make sense.
And she put all her senior paraphernalia all around the room. And she was asking me, Mom, do I have it right? How does this look? And I can't bear to take it down. exactly.
LaVena's mother, Linda, spoke to her daughter the night before she died.
She was her happy, jubilant, bubbly self. We laughed. Like I said, we were making plans, talking about Christmas, and it's July 17th.
2 days after that call, a soldier showed up unannounced at the Johnsons' home in Missouri.
So he looked up at me and he said, "Are you Linda Johnson, the mother of Private LaVena Johnson?" And I said, "Yes, I am. What do you want?" And he opened his little book and he said, he began to read, "I regretfully inform you that your daughter, Private LaVena Johnson, is dead of a self-inflicted wound, gunshot wound." And I just began screaming and hollering. I just lost it. I couldn't believe it.
After the initial shock, the family began to question the Army's rush to judgment that LaVena died of a self-inflicted injury.
Okay, that's the one with the rifle.
Dr. Johnson is a veteran himself who went on to work for the Army as a civilian specialist in psychology for nearly 3 decades. But for the past 3 years, he has studied every aspect of his daughter's death.
Okay. But I'm looking for the sketch that the criminal investigators made.
Guys, these photos are graphic, just to let you know. I know I was going to do a different video, but I'm just going to let it play for a
That's
little
another
bit.
blood pattern.
With his brother Joe, a former prisons officer with forensics training, they've spent countless hours analysing and cross-referencing photos, reports, and the testimony of those in the camp.
Eyewitness accounts, they state that from the time he heard what he deemed to be either backfire or a gunshot, he looked in the direction and he saw flames coming from the tent known as DFAC-2, which is...
Now look, I gotta stop, but I also want to let y'all know too, another issue. These are military photos of the actual scene where Miss Johnson was killed. They're the only official reporting on Miss Johnson's autopsy even stated that there was no sign that she had any gunpowder or gun residue on her hands. The other aspect as well was that from our own evaluation, they said that she was very happy. She was not in any emotional distress. So it didn't sound like someone that was suicidal in any way, shape, or form. I just wanted to point that out. So I'll continue.
Is the
By the way,
contract
like I said, these are very graphic, so viewer discretion advised.
10.
One of the many inconsistencies, according to Dr. Johnson, is the Army's conclusion
Now look
that
where the gun
LaVena
is.
used an accelerant to start a small fire to burn her diary, which then spread to a nearby bench.
The witnesses say that the stool was lying on top of her. Someone lit an accelerant, and the accelerant was sitting on the bottom of the stool. So physically, that evidence just shows there was at least another person in that location when her body was placed there, because that's not where she died.
There's also, you believe, that there's signs that she was sexually assaulted.
Correct.
Dr. Johnson believes LaVena was raped and murdered by someone in her camp and accuses the Army of covering up a soldier-on-soldier slaying.
Okay, let me put some more.
It would be easy to dismiss his conclusions as the imaginings of a grief-stricken father if it weren't for the disturbing pattern of sex crimes and judicial inaction in the US military.
Please give a warm welcome to Jessica Kenyon.
Jessica Kenyon is an Army veteran, and today she is giving a talk to students at a New York college.
I didn't understand it until it happened to me. I couldn't have effectively helped anybody until it happened to me.
Jessica says she survived multiple rapes and sexual assaults during her military career, and she is now campaigning to increase awareness of the problem.
It is important for those of us who are able to speak out to do so, for the ones who are just not able to mentally or emotionally or whatever.
So this is 2nd Infantry Division, which is basically everybody in Korea.
Becoming an officer had been her dream.
And then the wings in the U.S. signify that I was in aviation.
But as a mechanic attached to a helicopter squadron, Kenyon found herself in a unit where few women had been before, and in a culture where bullying and persecution was the norm.
It was just pretty much a hazing birthday ritual, you know, where they do this, they make him all up, and then he's actually tied to a chair right now, but then they make him up and throw him in the mud.
Sexual harassment at all levels was commonplace, and women were a source of derision. In this video she filmed at her base, a young soldier was taunted and humiliated by his commander for more than 4 hours after it was discovered he was a virgin.
2, 3, louder! I want to get laid! I want to get laid! I want to get laid! Yeah!
Whilst in the US, Jessica says she was raped by a National Guard soldier and later sexually harassed by her training instructor. Jessica was then posted to Korea, where she continued working on Apache helicopters and still had high hopes for her career.
So it didn't really affect my work until I was fully assaulted, fully raped by another soldier in Korea who was actually a friend of mine, one of the few I had confided in while I was overseas. And so I didn't report that right away either as well, because for the same exact reasons that I couldn't trust my command or my commanders or my sergeants or anyone associated with my command.
Jessica says that she eventually made an official report after her superior insisted he would make sure her assailant was jailed. But when her attacker was found guilty, she says that same commander gave him just 45 hours of extra duty and a demotion of 2 ranks.
It really breaks my heart, you know, because I was going in, I was really pushing for the 20 years, go officer, and, you know, I was fully capable. But, you know, it was just, for all of that to go down the way it did, and, you know, for me to do the right thing, and then for them to not even hold their end of the bargain, let alone add any honor to it, it was really pretty disgusting and heartbreaking. And
most sexual assault victims are not treated well. They become a double victim. They become a victim of the system. The only thing that's remaining is the name.
Retired Army Colonel Ann Wright is another veteran campaigning against sexual assaults.
The issue of sexual assault in our U.S. military is very grave. 1 in 3 women, it appears, have been sexually assaulted during the time they've been in the military. How the economy is still...
The former US diplomat and anti-war activist believes the military justice system is stacked against sexual assault victims.
You're tattling on someone else in your unit, even though that person has committed a criminal act on you. Word gets out in the unit, yeah, so-and-so's been messing around with someone else, and look at Sergeant so-and-so, he's being accused of rape, and he's got a wife and 2 kids, and we can't sacrifice his career because of this unmarried, single 19-year-old woman that claims that he raped her.
You know, because you kept trying
But
to stop.
one off.
So it has this documentary is, by the way, is available on YouTube from Journeyman TV. Journeyman Pictures, they posted it. It was called Sex in the Army. You guys can check it out. Excuse me, I had to step out for a minute when you guys saw me. But yeah, this is called Sex in the Army, 2009 video. Apparently it's probably going to be updated, but there's countless stuff you can find on LaVena Johnson that's available online, and we should check that out. We also need to bring this up to our current Commander-in-Chief, Donald Trump, and others. And look, you guys can get mad and say, well, Trump ain't gonna do shit and so forth. Look, and he's racist and so forth. Look, y'all go to work every day with people you don't like. We go to work all the time with people that we got a fucking disagreement with, someone that you know exactly what I'm talking about, somebody that messes with you all the time, somebody that gets on your damn nerves. But you go to work, why? Because you need something, you need money. You go to work so you could pay the bills. So we all work with someone we don't like, and if they are reaching out to you and it can be beneficial, and you're not going to be used in any way, shape, or form, and you can use that person to help you get what you need and get access, then do it. Do it. But we need to, as much as we need to be shocked and upset about, I said shacked. Shack attack. No, I'm being serious though, excuse me. But no, as much as we are shocked and upset about what happened with Vanessa Guillen and also what happened with our sister Breonna Taylor, that no arrest even in that case has not been made as of yet, is appalling. We also need to do our best to try and bring this thing back up. You know, it's been 15 years, but there's no statute of limitations on murder. And people that know something about the case, there are people that know about it. I'm sure they're just not telling you. And, you know, there'll have to be some plotting, there'll have to be some digging done, and I know it's hard because the physical evidence is technically destroyed, but there's somebody that knows some stuff about this. So hopefully they'll step forward and do the right thing. But we support the Johnson family, and, you know, I know this is actually a difficult time for them because her birthday is about to come up in the next couple of weeks, but perhaps we maybe eventually one day we may be able to get Dr. Johnson to come on to talk if he would like to. So I would hope I could send this video to him and just reach out to his family. But rest in peace, LaVena Johnson. We hope that we can definitely, that this video will bring anybody with any information out that they have on this case, anybody that knows something about it, because her family certainly does not deserve that. At any rate, guys, that's been it for me. This has been another edition of Gavin Richard Presents, only on G Boot 2786. Hope you are blessed and stay safe. I'm out. Peace.